Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second hour of the Santita Jackson Show. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you. Thank you, Greg Palace, for joining us from Portugal in the last hour here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars, the Santita Jackson morning stars. I love you all so much. We have some great conversations over there on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So please, everybody, like and subscribe. Thank you for having people do that. Like and subscribe. Tell people about the show. Click that button so that you can be notified. Click the bell so that you'll be notified when we come up. I understand that they've been playing around with our times. Terry O'Neill, Gabe Drobny, and Reverend Jeanette Wilson. At one point we were streaming like 3 million people a week, and then they started messing with it. Yeah, but that's all right. We're gonna work it out. We know they mess algorithmically. We get messed with because we are on the right side. How about that? Yeah. So we just please everybody tell folks about the show. That's what we need you to do. Tell them, tell them, tell them, tell them about the show. I've seen some people on Twitter and on Facebook trying to describe to other people to come on over to the show. Listen, let me tell you what we do. It's kind of like a TV show. It's kind of like a radio show. It's kind of like a. And the woman said in response, a lot of great conversations and information. So how about that? So I'm on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. Please get over there. That is the only page I have. If you go to Santita Jackson, I can't take any more friends there. They keep kicking people off. That's not me. That's Facebook. They limit you, but they don't limit you on Santita Jackson and Friends. So let's get to it. I know Gabe is almost tired of me right now. This brilliant political organizer who has knocked on 30,000 doors himself. Brilliant young political consultant. And I'm so glad, I feel so blessed to have gotten to know him virtually over the past few days. I've had him on every single show I've done since Sunday. But I've been so impressed with this young man because he's getting out here and he's doing the work. Of course, Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson, Rainbow Push, the executive director, national executive director of the Push for Excellence program. She's been with Push for more than 40 years, working, wearing every kind of hat. We're getting ready for for the Democratic convention that begins on the 18th of August. But guess what? The Push convention, the international conference, is going to dovetail into that convention. More about that later from you, Reverend Dr. Wilson, the 13th through the 17th. Go to rainbowpush.org. Give us your input. Tell us what you want to talk about. Many people are saying that folks are going to come to Chicago to demonstrate, and they should, Terry O'Neill. They should. But remember, demonstration is preceded by education and negotiation. What we have to do is understand what we are demonstrating for, what we are wanting, what more than that, what we are needing. So let me start with you, Attorney Terry O'Neill, someone who reason I want to start with her, Reverend Jeanette Wilson, is because Terry O'Neill would come through all of our conventions, and here I am, my phone's ringing. And mind you, because my phone is so old,
Can't
I
turn.
have I have the bell off. But guess what? I knew they want me to buy a new one because it sends you all messages that I haven't written, all this other stuff. But anyway, that having been said, you've talked about intersectionality, and we have a lot of issues that have people in the streets and that have people really, really worried. And Gabe has been with me because he has helped to drive a lot of these shows. Um, it's been interesting hearing from people about the issues that mean the most to them. And I promise you, Gabe, I think you can be my witness. Every issue that is driving them to the polls or away from the polls or that has got them wound up, everybody's extremely passionate about something or some things. I mean, there is no middle ground for the American voter in 2024 or for Americans. And I just hope that all Americans will vote. Terry O'Neill, give me what are you hearing from people are the issues that are driving them? We don't want to talk about the polls anymore, not right now. We
Right.
want to talk about what they're responding to. What are you hearing?
So, Santita, I'm really hearing two things. One is obviously, look, the war in Gaza and Israel is very much on the minds of people that I talk to, and it's very distressing. The people that I talk to are furious with the assault on Gazan civilians.
Mhm.
They are, it's extremely upsetting. The same time, the people I talk to, they tend to be, very engaged voters, and they also know that if Mr. Trump were to take over the presidency, Gazans would be in worse shape. That's what the fear is, and so people feel like they're caught between a rock and a hard place. But I think one of the most important parts of this is perhaps often overlooked, which is that they are, when I engage them and talking about like the presidential election, that's what I hear. But mostly when I ask open ended questions, they are talking about their local, what's going on locally.
Mm.
They are concerned that they are not heard on college campuses. They are organizing to make themselves heard on their college campuses. They are organizing to inform themselves about the history of the Middle East, about the history going back to 1948, and what the story was in 1948 and how we got to where we are. They are informing themselves of all of those things. These are people who understand, I think, relational organizing, which to me is very, very encouraging.
Now, what is relational organizing?
It's as opposed to transactional
Mm.
organizing. So with transactional organizing, you go around door to door, you say, "Vote for me, I'll set you free," right? It's just right. Remember that from years ago.
Absolutely.
Um, and that's just very transactional. Relational organizing is what is happening not only on college campuses but in communities, certainly here in Nashville. And it's, this is who I am. Tell me who you are. What are your values? What are the values that we share? How can we work together to achieve goals that we have here in our local communities? That's relational organizing. It takes a long time. It cannot be about the next election. It's not about the next election. It's about values and about moving forward and about civic engagement broadly understood. And so that to me is very encouraging. Um,
Let me interrupt you here because we kept hearing that and that this is a very selfish group of young people, and we're going to get to. We have one of them with us today who's not selfish at all, and it seems that as they are demonstrating about Gaza and any number of issues, for them it's not about the money. It's not even about their career advancement, Reverend Wilson. They are looking at making a better world.
exactly. Yeah,
Am I correct here?
Absolutely. I
I
think
mean,
that,
no, I wasn't stopping Terry O'Neill. I was just trying to like carrot. I'm just inserting
yeah,
because I see because you're talking about them and you're talking to them, and you're
right.
a mom. So I mean,
Yes, yes, yes,
so
exactly.
that's what you're hearing.
And I think a lot of that, selfishness, they're self-centered. That's not true, but it relates to the fact that now I have to sneeze. I'm so sorry.
No,
I
it's
think
okay.
I've
It's
got
all right.
allergies going today. So today people are online, they're on social media. Social media is a very isolating kind of experience. It's, you take a picture to show how wonderful you are, but you're not really talking to the people you know best. You're just putting
Mhm.
it out there for everyone to see. So this is individualism. Rugged individualism has absolutely taken over the national narrative in ways that 40 years ago was not true. And I think what we're seeing is people who, sort of have grown up into this individualized um, way of looking at the world. That doesn't mean that they are not concerned with collective action, that they don't understand collective action. It is more, I think, a question of a style than a substance. The substance is there in right here in Middle Tennessee, right? There was a vote for a union at the Volkswagen plant, and the union vote prevailed in deep red Tennessee, that is so anti-labor and so anti-woman and so racist, and yet the union won the election. So, and these are young workers. So uh, I totally reject the idea that young people who are active today are selfish. I think they are individuals and they understand individualization. And so, but I think they are also keying very much into collective action and the importance of collective action. And that's something that we need to build back up, because the Reagan Revolution was intended to tear that apart and was quite successful at it. And we need to really build it back up.
Do you think that that's informing their politics? Because it seems that, the 80s was, come on, that's when I came alive, very individual, you know,
Yes.
I'm going to big shoulder pads, big hair.
God.
I'm gonna make my money. Oh yeah, let's not pull out anyone's pictures.
No. The hair and the shoulders. Yeah, no, it was terrible. Yes, and the individualism of the '80s was specifically designed, was an attempt to destroy unions. Young people today have had it with capitalism, and of course, capitalism requires an individualist worldview. It's how the corporations beat down working people by dividing us against one another. But young people today have really caught on to what capitalism does to us. It's killing the planet. It's impoverishing most people in this country. It's empowering and making very, very wildly wealthy a tiny slice of the American public, and making everybody else's life harder. And so they've cottoned on to that, and that can only be a good thing.
So you see Gaza really looming large in this election.
I mean, I do, because it's a humanitarian crisis. And I hear people saying over and over and over again, it cannot be the case that just because we want to stop the killing in Gaza, that somehow we are okay with killing Jews in Israel. That cannot be the case. What we need is a political regime that respects the right of Jews in Israel, of Jews in Iraq. Not that there are very many of them, having been ethnically cleansed back in the 40s and 50s from Iraq into what is now Israel. The ethnic cleansing of Jews around the world, in fact, was to cleanse them into what is now Israel. And we need to remember that fact. And the people I talk to are very cognizant of it. They're also very cognizant of the fact that Israel is no longer a democracy, cannot call itself a democracy because of its policies of apartheid and colonialism, any more than the state of Tennessee, where I live, can call itself a democracy. It is not. It stops Black people from voting. It stops women from access to health care. It is a minority rule, white men in charge, everybody else, doesn't have a voice. So what I'm saying is, what I hear is people who are actually very broadly understanding what the problem is. And the problem is the devastation of human rights and the desire and the determination to restore human rights from where I live to the Middle East to the entire country.
Well, plus Americans don't want to be associated with genocide. It's just when you saw the bodies brought home in
Oh
Vietnam,
God.
which I don't remember. You remember that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and my parents saw that, even though they're much older than you. That was a turning point. And when people saw, because the narrative on the Middle East is not what it turns out, the narrative that we've been given was just not true. And I think that's the disappointment. And I think that's when you see I'm not going to call it extreme. When you see the reaction, it's just like anybody else. When you find out that what you've been told was not true,
Right.
it becomes extremely difficult. Gabe, let me come to you, because we've talked about the young people, and not only are you a young person, you are also an organizer. And I mean, you're not an organizer on paper. I mean, you
Yeah.
are an organizer the way Reverend Jackson is an organizer. I mean, the way Terry O'Neill is an organizer. You all knock on doors, you talk to people. It's Reverend Wilson is an organizer. I mean, and working with people and talking to people, it takes time. You have to hear that. I mean, because when you ask people how they're doing as an organizer, they're going to give you a bio. And you're like, okay, but I mean, but because I just kind of went through that. I told you just, coming into this show. But either you love people or you don't. And in political organizing, you have to love people and you have to really want to hear their stories. And so when we started talking about this, because we've been taking a deeper and deeper and deeper dive into what Americans are wanting, Gabe,
Yeah.
in this election cycle, because I think it's important for us to get behind the polls, because the polls really reflect how they're asked and who's asking them, who's asking the questions. Rasmussen skews right, Q skews left. I get it. But somewhere in between all that is the truth. So talk to me. What are you hearing from Americans about this election? What do they want? What's got them fired up?
Well, once again, Santita, like we talked about yesterday with, I was just thinking about when I got off the show yesterday and I called some friends and some colleagues and asked them, we had similar conversations. Amongst wealthy suburban voters, the biggest issue is overturning Roe v. Wade. And then you have the climate change. And then once again, this is with the suburban demographic, which is going to be more affluent type of voters. And those will be the highest propensity of turnout. Amongst middle class voters across, and like we talked about again, that there is a large percentage and block of independent voters. Their biggest issue is no doubt going to be the migrant crisis. The migrant crisis is being overlooked by the Democratic Party. And once again, I'm not advocating for either which way. From a political strategist standpoint, it is going to be the number one headache and issue of the Biden administration's reelection campaign. The migrant crisis.
Why is the migrant crisis? Is that because the corporate media has framed it a particular way? Because most visa overstays are of Canadians, right? So it's always these brown people and these black folks who come in who become the problem. That has Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis standing, in his case, at the border. Governor Abbott and of course, at DeSantis' case, at the podium, looking at the sea. What is it? Is it the great replacement theory, where people feel they're being replaced? Do they think that people are getting more than their fair share? I mean, what is it?
I don't think this time around, once again, this is my opinion, it's not the replacement theory. It is the fact, like we talked about yesterday on the show, and some panelists also advocated for this, like you and I know in the city of Chicago. Black voters and the black demographic are really, really frustrated with the Democratic Party's false messaging of this being saved. It's been decades upon decades of promises of change. Everyone thought that the Obama administration would be the forward movement, but that hasn't been the case. So now that the migrants are being placed within, in neighborhoods that, have lower voter turnout, that are really struggling with food apartheid, job apartheid, transportation apartheid, and then you're going to you're going to place migrants in underfunded and underinvested communities as is. The Black community has been alienated and forgotten, and large subsidies are being spent on the migrant crisis. And, Black voters have a case to be really upset because they've been waiting centuries, to be honest, for investment. So
But Gabe, let me interrupt you here, because when you said dumped, I didn't take that. I didn't take that to mean that you were being insulting. The fact is, they have been dumped. They have been placed in communities that are underfunded, and they have been placed there without any care.
Yep. And to be honest, I say dumped because that's what voters told me. Voters are telling me that.
They see it.
They see it and feel it.
So, I mean, do you think that would spur people who are down? Some of them are down on voting, some are not. I think, we have to talk to me. Are they more inclined to vote? Do they think they can vote their way out of this? Because I know they're taking aim at Mayor Brandon Johnson, for example, in Chicago. I mean, his disapproval ratings are at 57%.
Yes.
Largely driven, I would say, Attorney O'Neill, Reverend Wilson, you know this better than anyone. You do too, Gabe, by this crisis.
It is the number one crisis and problem that the Biden administration is going to be facing. And now, we veer to the tipping point, right? As they say in the political scientist world, The tipping point is going to be the genocide in Gaza. They are going to lose the young progressive vote that could carry and make up for the lost vote of the disinvestment in communities, especially Black and Brown communities and just underfunded communities, as is with high unemployment and low-skilled labor. They are feeling the direct effects of the migrant crisis, and with the populist rhetoric and messaging of the right, it resonates with them because they're not feeling like as if they are a part of the grand budget. So then when the migrant crisis comes into their, into their nation and they see it on the news, that is what they're aiming at. And it's easy to point the blame. So then in terms of the young vote, the genocide in Gaza is going to be the tipping point of a lot of people either protest voting or voting for an independent candidate such as Dr. Colonel West.
So you really do see people actually looking at moving toward a Cornel West, for example. They see him as a live option. They see Kennedy as a live option. They see Jill Stein as a live option. These are live options to people this time.
I think they see Donald Trump as a live option. I'm sorry to say, but I think they do.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, they do. I mean,
They do.
So when you all say that, please elaborate.
So the frustration with Joe Biden is that he is a corporate Democrat. That has been the frustration of younger voters for years, right? There's a classic bumper sticker that I saw in Portland when I still lived there. The Bernie bumper sticker, and over that, the individual who driving the car, clearly a young man, had sort of overlaid a bumper sticker on top of it that said, quote, "Fine, Biden, but this is bull."
I have seen that bumper sticker, and
right.
Whoa.
And that has, and it's really a shame. Joe Biden comes in much and promoting and achieving many more progressive issues and policy agendas than I would have expected him to. I give a lot of credit to Bernie Sanders and frankly to Elizabeth Warren, who were in there populating the administration with people who, had an agenda, a progressive agenda they wanted to achieve. That gets bogged down because of Democrats, because of Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. And what does Biden do? He doesn't want to lose his corporate supporters, and he moves back to, sort of claiming the middle and the so-called bipartisanship and so forth. And this has been extremely, I think, demoralizing. So they're very upset with Democrats. And they see Donald Trump as a populist. Some people, especially people who have given up on capitalism, are also giving up on democracy. They link the two together. And giving up on democracy means saying, well, okay, let's see what happens with a strong man. Let's see what happens with a dictator. This perhaps wouldn't be so bad. I think it makes it harder on me as an organizer to actually get things done in Middle Tennessee. And but these are voters. This is how
what we're working with.
This is what we're working with.
Do you think the Democratic Party is paying attention to that?
Nope. I think they're terrified of it and they would rather not think about it.
Gabe, you nodded vigorously in assent.
Yeah, I mean, the Democratic Party, that's why they call it, the party of champagne socialists, right? In terms of organizing, nobody wants to knock doors in the South Side. I've knocked doors in South Chicago. I've knocked thousands of doors on Commercial Street. I was by myself. Nobody wants to talk to those people.
Why not? I mean, first of all, the people get blamed for a Democratic loss, and this, Reverend Wilson, it's the Black community.
That's right.
And then they will farm out Black leaders to shame and blame. I'm like, no, hold on. Because the data showed that the majority of white America voted for Donald Trump. 2/3 of his voters made $50,000 a year or more. You all are lying. And the Democrats are not coming to our rescue or to our defense. I don't need you to rescue me, just defend me. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the truth. You keep trying to get these Reagan Democrats. They're not coming back, y'all. They haven't been here in 40 years. Let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, but the fact that Gabe is out here by himself, you know what you say? They don't, because they're gonna vote. That you're not gonna be able to tell people. I keep trying to say this in 2024. Ooh, Trump. Black people have endured slavery in America.
Mhm, mhm.
We cannot be frightened by anything.
Exactly.
We have seen it all.
Mhm, mhm.
So if you can frighten somebody else, Reverend Wilson, but black folks, we're like this. Okay, what? I'm in the north because y'all ran my family out the south. I mean, they were trying to find Emmett Till's body in that Mississippi River,
Mm.
they pulled out many bodies and they said, "Well, no, that's not the
Mhm.
wrong one." But not him. They bumped into many bodies and they could only identify him by the ring that his father had given him on his hand. But there were a lot of bodies they just let go. So I don't understand. I don't understand how you can be alone knocking on doors, Gabe, when these are the people that they need. They need to hear them and they need their votes.
Well, and I think a couple things. I think that's why this year we're really hosting a people's convention. We want the people's voices and needs to be heard. When I talk to black voters and black people and young people, um,
What are you hearing? Because what's interesting about you as an educator, you also have a foot in the University of Chicago.
Mhm.
And so you know the professors there, you knew many of the students in the encampments. And Terry, these young kids at this school that costs $100,000 a year for an undergrad,
Right. Yeah.
um,
which is insane.
they were in their camp at 4:40 in the morning. The police come swatted up in riot gear and start physically um, shoving them around, and they're like, "Whoa!" And they don't even know enough because they don't have the street. They haven't had that talk, so they didn't know to keep your hands up and just try not to move. They're like, "Well, wait a minute, I just want to grab, I want to grab my books." No,
Mhm.
I mean, no, seriously. I mean, because they did. That's not where they were. I
Well,
mean,
I think, and I think the thing is, the students have finally decided to not just watch this stuff and talk through social media. They've decided to take action. They asked the president of most of these colleges for a meeting to understand what's happening in Gaza. How much money are you investing in the Israeli war? They just want to know, what do you invest our tuition dollars in? What are you doing with the money? That's a simple question that can be answered. And you can even say, just like when students, many years ago, these universities invested in slavery. So it's the same structure. And when the students ask the question, the next thing, if you don't talk to them, I have to take to the streets. I have to act to get your attention. I think what they're saying is we've gone from Occupy, you remember Occupy every city, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy LaSalle Street. Our young people are tired of not getting real answers and not even being, there's no response. You just ignore them. So they say, we will not be ignored. And then you have these same students with enormous student loan debt that no member of Congress seems to think it's important enough to eliminate student loan debt. It's not like this in any other country in the world except for the free country, the home of the free and the brave. So students are wondering, I have $200,000, $300,000 worth of debt. I have no prospect of a job upon graduation, so I got to go to get another piece of paper, create more debt. And when I graduate, I can't pay the debt. I can't leave my parents' home because I have debt. I can't I can't get a car, so I have to ride public transportation. And if you're black, it doesn't run well where you live with your parents who sent you to college to get a better life. So students are very upset. They, and you have, and Biden and the Democrats need to stop talking about democracy. This is not what democracy looks like.
so when you say that they need to stop talking about democracy,
Because
what do you mean? Because they keep saying it.
they keep saying,
The people I'm talking to, let me tell you, you talk about a conversation that goes like this.
People don't even know what democracy is. Law students don't know what democracy is. So and Terry knows this. You go to law school, you spend all that time. They never tell you anything about democracy because it's a nebulous term.
And what we
Jump in,
also
Terry.
know is that corporations have done everything they can to destroy democracy in this country, starting 40 years ago. This is not new. It is not caused by Donald Trump.
No.
He's, of course, a huge part. He's like a grifter, mafioso
He's a
guy.
manifestation of it, and because power is ugly and nasty, and that's just how it is.
And
Right. So look, at you talk about democracy is going to be destroyed. I just moved to the state of Tennessee a little over a year ago. There is no democracy in this state. So
What do you mean?
from Tennessee, born there.
no, there's no democracy. 20% of the people are blocked from voting at all. That would, and mostly Black and Latina people. And then half of the population has now been blocked from civic engagement. When you can't get reproductive health care, when you are in terror that if you get pregnant and you have a miscarriage, you can be prosecuted
And
criminally. And when your doctor will not give you the kind of care you give because the doctor is even higher risk of being prosecuted and sent to prison. That is not civic engagement. So that's half the population excluded from civic engagement and told we don't matter and just sit down and shut up. That is not democracy at all. So you have all these people in Tennessee, right? And you say, oh, democracy is going, well, we're going to lose democracy. And honestly, a lot of us are going, what do you mean lose?
We never had it. That's number one. The other thing is when you look at there's no middle class. There's the rich and there's the poor.
Yes.
Working poor who make almost a livable wage, but most people don't make a livable wage. And so most people are trying to figure out on my income, how do I go to a grocery store that has double the cost of eggs, milk, and butter and bread?
Mm-hmm.
So how do I survive if I'm a family of four?
Mm-hmm.
You have to go to school
and
eat.
And here's so Tennessee does not have an income tax. It doesn't. There's no state income tax. Instead, the tax is most of the state's budget is based on a sales tax and property tax. The sales tax is 7% at the state level, 2.5% at most municipal levels. Okay, here's the kicker. So that's very regressive, right? That loaf of bread costs the same whether you're a millionaire or a person making $7.25 an hour. That's the minimum wage in Tennessee, $7.25.
That's not livable. That's just minimum.
It's a poverty wage. It is a poverty wage. So that loaf of bread costs the same. You're a millionaire. You're paying your 9.25%. You know, if you're a poverty wage worker, you're paying 9.25%. But here's the kicker. They have a cap on sales tax in Tennessee of $1,600. Whatever you buy, it can't be valued at anything higher than $1,600. You put sales tax on that. So if you buy a $70,000 Tesla automobile, you know what your sales tax rate is? 0.000 something percent. I mean, it's insane. It's regressive on steroids.
So they're concerned about that, and so you can't tell me that we're not democratic. Democracy is going away. I don't know what that is because I have not experienced it.
There you go.
And then they say, well, they look at the migrant crisis. They're not so concerned about the people coming in. It's about the people that are already here that are homeless. Homeless families riding the CTAL station all night long, every night. You put the migrants in the Standard Club, Santita, when they sold the building, this rich Standard Club, people sold the building, and it's housing migrants, yet you can't find shelter for homeless people. They've been in tents all through the winter, all through COVID, and you never figured out what you could do for them. So they're not understanding. If this is what democracy looks like, I don't want it. So you have the students, you have ordinary people. They're not talking to these people. They're not communicating with them. I don't know why I pay more taxes than most rich people. That doesn't make sense to me. I can just count, and it's not adding up.
Right. And you know what's really mind-bogglingly frustrating?
Healthcare. I can't get healthcare beyond the abortion issue. They don't have affordable healthcare. Even if you're a senior, seniors on Medicaid can't choose where they go to the hospital to get treatment or medical care.
That's right. That's right. And in Tennessee, the state has refused to accept the expansion of Medicaid. So there are people who can't get any kind of health care at all. The other piece that makes me really frustrated is that I have seen Joe Biden, you see the White House, you see Democrats in Congress, not all of them, but most of them, pushing for progressive policies, they really do support the Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. They do support access to health care for everyone. They support all these policies, but they're not out there saying, I can't get this done because XYZ, but I want to get it done. I hear you. I know I can't get student debt relief done because of this and this and this, but I'm working to get it done. I can't get health care debt, which is an even worse problem around the country than student loan debt.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Healthcare
It's the
debt.
number one driver of bankruptcies in the United States.
Exactly. And you don't hear Joe Biden out there saying, I know it's a problem. I'm working hard. I've got these Republicans against me. I've got some Democrats against me. But believe me, I hear you and I'm working on it. We're not hearing that.
But let me ask you this. How does that impact people when we're not hearing our issues? You know how when you mirror.
You're not going to vote. If you're not talking to me, I'm not voting for you. I don't know who you are. I don't care because you're not even thinking on my level. Don't keep talking above me. Talk to me.
But see, wait a minute, because Gabe is back. No, stay right there, Reverend Wilson.
Right.
No, because I think we're hitting on something, because Gabe is walking through the Black community by himself, and you've got a fair amount of Latinos on the South Side too. And he's by himself because he said, "Oh, please, I'm going to go talk to them." So he's kind of hearing what people are saying, and what I'm getting from my listeners and from people I talk to, Gabe, Attorney O'Neill, Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson, Esquire, people feel like they're not being heard. When I listen to Donald Trump, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah.
He is mirroring back to me the anger. Congressman Joe Walsh from Illinois, who you know, Reverend Wilson, he was on CNN this weekend. He's a political commentator there. And he said, look, let me tell you where Joe Biden is dropping the ball. And he's a Republican. But in Illinois, they're middle of the road Republicans. They're not far right. It's just Lincoln. Okay. So there are people you can absolutely relate to. In fact, historically, that's what we've had to do because the Democratic machine was so oppressive historically in Chicago.
It was, yeah.
And he said, you know what he is missing? He said, I don't understand why he's missing it, is the anger. He said he's underestimating the anger that is out here. And he said, now, Donald Trump is demagoguing it. He said he's as wrong as he can be. But when I look at all these Black folks on YouTube and on social media, and I know they're getting paid because the volume of their output means that that's you sitting and you getting a script and you're doing it. Okay, I got it. Excuse me, because I understand, pardon me, how that game works. He is resonating with these folks. Gabe, is that what you're seeing, hearing? Because I try not to come to people from a place of judgment, Terry and Reverend Wilson. I try to listen to them so they'll tell me what's on their minds. Gabe, talk to me. What? Oh, he froze.
He froze.
Hmm.
Well,
No, he's back now.
Gabe.
You said what I'm hearing within the Black community.
What do you? Yeah, and I mean, and just what are you hearing? Because it seems that Trump is mirroring the anger of Americans, and Biden, bless his heart, is talking right past it. And I'm like, wait, people maybe they feel ignored. I don't know. Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, people do feel ignored. You know, it's just. Can you hear me now?
Okay, now I can. Yes. Now we cannot, but you know what? We're going to get you for. Okay, you're back.
You know, people do feel ignored. Some question that I asked before. I don't feel like I'm a part of the national.
You don't feel like you're part of the
invest in our communities. We have to develop. Voters don't feel like part of the national annual budget. They just don't.
Mhm.
You know, wait, we have to get you into a good spot, Gabe, because we want to hear all of what you're saying. Okay. Okay, Gabe, try it again. We're gonna. Oh, he's freezing. Ah, I hate that. But that's okay. Just get into a good spot. And we're gonna come right back to you. But okay, Gabe, you're there now?
Yeah, I have submissions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It was just okay. Yeah. It's a poor connection.
Yeah.
We'll just keep working on it because we got about
you
10
can go.
minutes left.
You can go to Reverend Jeanette Wilson. I'm gonna try to fix my Wi-Fi real quick.
I tell you what,
Okay,
Gabe,
okay, no worries.
right connection.
But Reverend Wilson, you know, Kennedy said riots are the language of the unheard, and people are expecting riots in Chicago, right?
Hmm.
I don't think that necessarily is going to happen, but you know, I don't know. But you know, let's ask Jerry Seinfeld's wife. She and Bill Ackman have been helping to fund the provocateurs. Is that sad?
That is sad.
Very sad.
But I knew that. I'm so glad they're finally calling them out.
Well, I think we have to give people an opportunity to speak, and we have to speak to the people.
Mhm.
And you know, we can say it's all on Biden's shoulders. I am concerned that it's on our shoulders, you know, because you're looking at two opposition at the top. Well, you have to look at down ballot. Where are we? Who's running for Congress? The president can send a budget to Congress, but they have to vote for it.
But Jeanette, do you think that's being explained? I don't think it's
No,
being
it's not being
explained to
explained,
people.
but I'm saying we must explain it because when your father ran in 84 and 88, he ran on a people's agenda.
Mhm.
Somebody running on the people's agenda. We must make them focus on a people's agenda. It's our country. He's one man, either one. One is better communicator than the other. Biden put you to sleep. Trump just angers you because he just says all kind of crazy stuff because he's a communicator. He understands how to communicate.
But he's crazy like a fox.
He seriously has studied dictatorship. He understands power.
Oh.
But you know what? But let me say this to you: when we're looking at censorship under this administration, and that's very real. When we're looking at being policed, you know, he has to speak to that.
I agree he has to speak to it, but how about censorship of books and banning books? That's a state's agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Education is a states' rights movement. And what some people have done, the Republican Party has done better than the Democratic Party, is they have placed people in state legislative bodies, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama.
No. All across the country.
All,
but they lost 1,000 seats.
Red southern states, plus some other states.
But let me insert this here because you know we've had David Daley at Push. We've had him on this show, on Reverend Show. I brought him on for years, and got to get him back. His #1 bestseller, Rat Effed. You know, Terry, we've tried not to say that on the air.
Right.
The true story of the secret plan to steal our democracy.
Absolutely.
That's the subtitle.
Mhm.
These Republican operatives got together the night that Obama was elected, and they said they watched everybody crying and swaying in Grant Park and weeping. They said, that's nice. They can have that. But what we're going to do now is take over the states.
And they did.
And they did.
We lost 1,000 seats. And Democrats said nothing. Everybody was trying to save Obama, but Obama didn't say anything. And I'm like, we're losing governorships, state legislatures, county seats. What? And look at where we are right now. When Gabe is back. Gabe?
I actually will say, surprisingly, in my opinion, in the past year, Democrats have actually done really well in local races. You know, I worked in Virginia where we went up against the governor and prospective Republican GOP nominee, Glenn Youngkin. You know, Kentucky has a blue governor, has a Democratic governor.
That's true.
We got the abortion referendum passed in Ohio. I believe the abortion referendum is on the ballot in Florida, and it's looking like Democrats are galvanizing there. We won the state legislature in Pennsylvania. So like we talked about yesterday and earlier in the week, Democrats need to focus more on building from the bottom up, not the top down, because the top of the ticket is bringing the bottom of the ticket down. And by the
What
Biden
do you mean by
administration,
that when you say that?
everything the local rep does to help Joe Biden only helps Joe Biden. It does not help your local elected official, because Joe Biden, as our leader of the free world, his rhetoric does not resonate with the masses of the voters, because people feel forgotten. He doesn't address the hard questions. He avoids the media, and often you cannot fake authenticity, and people do see that.
So, what's your prescription for him going forward? We've got about 5, 6 minutes left in the broadcast.
If he wants to salvage his presidency of any format, he needs to put the money into local races, and he needs to help out local candidates, especially in the swing states. He needs to propel good, quality, progressive candidates in swing states to carry the Democratic vote, and not work from, like the $14 million subsidy in the black market. That's media market. That's not good enough.
Hmm.
But if you help that community as much as he can in the time frame he has, then you can maybe galvanize some support back. So Democratic Party needs to build from the bottom up, not top down.
Well, and that sounds very much, Terry, like Reverend's politics. And
Yes.
Martin King's politics. I mean, your politics, because waiting on the people at the top, that's never been our style. But I think that once we got a black president, we got comfortable.
Yeah.
And we became reliant upon that symbology instead of the substance of what, we have not given ourselves credit. Number one, we made him.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's like, hold on, this is, and I just saw John Thompson, the iconic Hoyas, Georgetown Hoyas basketball coach. And of course, I got a chance to know him when I was in college, and because that's when I was in college, and it was like, oh, the Hoyas were so handsome, and they were great. But he was making them into one. But they were gorgeous, girl. They were, but they were. He was really. He said, they don't have to win a game. I want them to come out of here men. I want them to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you know what? When people would come to him and say, you're making history, you're the first black, he said, I don't want to hear about the first black anything. He said, that's insulting to me. Because you're saying that as if I am the first person who was able to do it. I'm the first one with the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
There was a woman who could have been Hillary's president, for God's sakes. And she's not the first one who was qualified, but she's the first one who did it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to give her credit for it. Stop playing. Whatever you feel about her politics, that woman won.
Mm-hmm.
She won.
She got 3 million more. 3 million.
She won. She
Yeah.
won. She won.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, my question is, where do we go from here? Because we do have people. We're going to have the saboteurs here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we need to organize past them.
Yes.
We need a people's convention, which is what the Bush convention can be. And what it ought to be, I just got a text from Greg Powers. He's calling people already. He said we can do some things, and push Biden to sign an executive order on voting rights here in Georgia. He said, let's do it.
Yeah.
So there are things that we have the power, Terry, to make things happen. Reverend Wilson, Gabe, and so I'm going to give each of you a minute to close us out, because the reason I keep going back to the vote is because I don't want us to talk about everybody. I want us to start talking with each other and have honest conversations. Whatever your reservations are, whatever is bothering you, let's put it out there so we can deal with it. What did you say, Terry? I asked you, are Democrats understanding this? You're like, no. They might understand it, but they're ignoring it.
Yeah, National Democrats, and that's been an issue for me with National Democrats for the entire time that I've been an activist and an organizer. Tell you the truth. And I think Gabe is absolutely right that that actually where the Democratic Party sort of writ large, at the state and local and so forth level, it's the state and local levels where the Democratic Party really does have the opportunity to achieve some gains, especially the pro-abortion rights ballot measures. There is one in Florida, and I'm blanking. I think Arizona. I think there's one in Arizona as well. And there's some real possibility of making some gains specifically on that issue. And yeah, at the national level, people don't feel heard. And the people that I hang out with don't feel heard. But at the local level, there really is activity going on and some possibilities. And I think for me, my whole focus is local right now. I'm retired. I don't have to be in Washington, D.C. anymore fighting that uphill battle. I'm doing relational organizing as much as I can here in Middle Tennessee.
Well, to your point, Gabe, that's where we will win.
I do
Because-
think we will win. in the
Okay, no,
local-
talk to me. Talk to me 1 minute. It belongs to you.
So I do think Democrats right now are actually doing a really good job of organizing at the local level. On the national stage, you're not seeing that because our leader of the Democratic Party is not. He does not resonate with the masses of the general voter. Where I do think the Democratic Party really, really needs to rebrand itself. There are a lot of really, really quality candidates out there that would like to run for office, but they are denied the opportunity based upon corporate PAC money and based upon the old guard and the status quo consolidating their power. There are really, really quality candidates. I actually know a candidate in Chicago and within the Rainbow Push who's really, really good at it. And I've been lobbying for him to run. There are very, very qualified, young, and all ages, really good candidates that we need on the run for office, and we need to help them. And then you will see a change in the grand strategy in a decade's time.
Well, as we have our convention August 13th through the 17th, maybe that needs to be one of the workshops. Reverend
I
Wilson.
think so. I was thinking about it yesterday. We really need to propel young candidates to run because there are a lot of very smart people out there that just feel discouraged by the system.
And they can win.
They can win.
They can win. Knocking on these doors, Reverend Wilson, they can win. Look, we ran for president with a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket. And that's no plug for KFC.
That's for sure.
But I mean, the big joke was we didn't have any money at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the press would say they were writing about it in Time and Newsweek and the Financial Times. They said this campaign, this is the most improbable campaign we've ever seen. They have no money. They're jumping into the cabs with us because the staff have no money. But my father said, go. And yes. And guess what? Made a lot of history and changed everything. Reverend Wilson, August 13th to the 17th. We got a lot going on, a lot to do.
Join us in Chicago at the People's Conference. We're going to have the People's Agenda. We will present it to the National Democratic Party and to the Republican Party. What the people are saying? What's the people's platform?
Yeah,
That's right.
Reverend Jackson's platforms from 84 and 88 in a 2024 context, and present that this is what the people are saying today. We want you, Gabe. You have to join us. Come door to door, knock on our door, and come right on in. Terry, we have worked together across the years. We need you. And
Here he comes to every convention.
we're asking ordinary community groups, national organizations, come with your platform agenda items rather than wait for the politicians the following week to tell us what they're not going to do. We want you to tell us what they must do, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to hold them accountable.
You know what? Let's get to it, everybody. There's a lot to do. Gabe, we need to talk with you about a workshop, a segment, and you need to help us to build out what young people are wanting, what they are needing.
And how we can help them.
And how we can help them, because there are some other Max Frosts out here.
We're ready.
Yep.
Who driving some Ubers right now, who waiting some tables, AOC, who her bartenders as she was. And guess what? They need to run. They're broke like Stacey Abrams was. Yeah, she said, yeah, I've got debt just like you, and I'm running.
If you don't run, you can't win. And if you run, you might.
Like Congresswoman Presley says, people closest to the pain need to be closest to the power.
That's right.
Man.
yeah, that's right.
Boom. Mic drop on that. I'm Santita Jackson. That was Gabe. Drop me.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic. Reverend Dr. Jeanette Wilson. And of course, Terry O'Neill, her, former national president of the National Organization of Women. We've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to do it. We're going to keep having these wonderful conversations. I love you, everybody, Brett and Chad and my family at AM 950.